Okay, good morning, brothers and sisters in Dhamma. Before I begin, let's pay homage to the Buddha first. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. My topic this morning is finding peace. I realized that after many, many years that even myself, I was so busy working and trying to establish myself a career and eventually set up family, and then the purchase our first house and then car, and then we have our children and things like that. So whatever we're doing, whatever I was doing then was trying to pursue happiness. And as I realized further that, in trying to pursue happiness, you find that as never-ending happiness. You've got what do you call it? A house. You want a bigger house. You got a car. You want a bigger car. You got one kids. You want more kids and things like that. And you've got you want more promotions. You want to have more salary and things like that. So that was what I was going through. That's why I realized that, and after many many years, we are all chasing after that so-called word called happiness. And mostly it is relating to worldly happiness. And I find that finding peace is one topic in which, while many of us know that it is important to be able to have peace, but because we are so busy in trying to find happiness, we forget that peace is equally important. All right, let's go and look at what the Buddha have taught us about happiness. I mean, there's nothing wrong to be happy actually. After all, in this life we've got enough challenges, right? But what the Buddha have actually taught us is something that we can learn about happiness. So in Digha Janu Sutta, Angka Nikaraya 8.54, the Buddha expounded to Digha Janu, or the Bia Paja family, all right? And he says that there are four things that we need to achieve in order to attain or achieve welfare and happiness. All right. Basically, number one is accomplishment and initiative. Here, he's basically referring to whatever we do. All right, we must be good. Okay, we must be good in whatever we do. We must have enough. We must work hard. We must be competent in whatever we do, so that we can get what do you call it, reward with it. And once we are good in whatever we do, naturally, the reward will come in the form of many forms. If you're a businessman, it comes in the form of profit. If you're an employee, it comes in terms of what do you call it, salary and bonuses. And if you're small-time businesses, it comes in the form of income that we get from it, a stable income from that. Now, having accomplished whatever we aim to accomplish, all right, career or businesses, come with it will always be reward. Now, the challenge here is many a times we see people who actually earn big money and do not know how to protect their income. I've seen many of these, including even my previous bosses, whose income is much, much more than me, but almost every other month, the credit card people will, because I was in charge of credit card then, my credit card team will always tell me, sir, this particular boss haven't paid his credit card bills. So I basically have to sort of mildly reminded this colleague of mine that, credit card has to be paid. But padahal he actually earned a lot more than me. All right. So you find that if you earn a lot of money, whether it's profit or salary, and you don't know how to protect it, then you find that it's such a waste. Money is difficult to earn, but it's easy to spend. All right. And it's easily to get it wasted if you don't know how to protect the the assets that you have, so-called the wealth that you have, so-called. Similarly, if you have wealth that you inherited, is even worse sometimes. When you cannot appreciate what you have, then you find that because it doesn't come from you, doesn't come from your own sweat and tears, you tend to be a bit more careless with the way you spend it. And that is where the Buddha in this particular sutta also taught us that we must be able to protect our wealth. Of course, there are many ways in which to protect our wealth. In the past, we talk about protecting our wealth against robbery, against the kings, the administration, and things like that. But today, when we talk about protection of wealth, we're talking about basically things like insurance, which you have, but more importantly, protecting it against scams. As we all know that today scams are rampant, and scams will actually take money from our bank. And of course, if you meet with the wrong person, wrong friends, your money can also be taken away. So the third one is basically the accomplishment in good friendship. This particular topic, which is good friendship, time and again, Buddha have actually reminded us that we don't live alone. We normally live in a society, and we have got friends, we've got colleagues, we've got family members. And he emphasized specifically on good friendship or Kalyana Mitras, because these are the people that we associate very often, almost every other day. Whether he could be a colleague or he could be your just friends outside, but it is very, very important. If you got the wrong friends, then you find that that friends will influence you to go into doing something bad. All right. Now, I'll give you an example. Even my own son, when he was younger, when he mixed with the wrong friends, you find that the friends will lead him into truancy, will lead him into fighting with other people, and also including teachers. So, but once you've got the right friends, once you mix the right friend, you find that that friend will help you to guide you, into the into the right path. So similarly, in this particular Dikajana Sutta, when you talk about good friendship here, you're talking about somebody who is able to protect your wealth, somebody who's able to advise you, somebody who is able to motivate you, and somebody who's able to take you to the right path. So this is very, very important in Dikajana Sutta. Of course, the fourth one, the Buddha also taught to say that, when we work hard, we earn money, we have our wealth, we must also know how to balance our finances. In this particular sutta, he also taught us to say that we cannot be either extremely spendthrift, which is spend beyond our means, or we're too stingy, we call it, that we do not spend enough money. So basically, what he's trying to say here is that whatever we have, we must be able to balance our finances. All right, and then if you look at Sigalovada Sutta itself, I think the Buddha taught us about dividing our so-called money into four parts. Two for investment, one part for spending, and the other part is for contingencies. So these are basically Dikajana Sutta that taught us about how to attain happiness through material accumulation of wealth and protections. Now, in Sigalovada Sutta, also the Buddha basically taught about basically the three things. I think the details, this is not the topic for us to discuss the details of the sutta, but it's good enough to say these are three key things. Number one, he advises to avoid evil ways. When you talk about avoiding evil ways, he's talking about making sure that we don't break at least the four precepts: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying. All right, and that's basically very, very important. And not only that, he also talks about ensuring that we do not waste our wealth through a bad association, through gambling, through spending too much time in the theater or entertainment. And he also taught us that we must choose true friends. So in this particular sutta itself, he did mention about the four types of true friends and the four types of fake friends. So basically, what he's trying to say here is that be careful with fake friends, especially. The fake friends are the one who actually pretend to be your friend, but he always take and never give. And the second type of fake friends are the fake friends who give you fourth leaf services. Talk nicely about how good you are, how friendly you are, how generous you are, but actually right behind his mind is basically take more things from you. And he's the one who actually like to flatter you, and of course he destroy whatever that you have. So in this particular sutta, the Buddha also advised us that in order for us to attain worldly happiness, we must be very, very careful with the type of friends that we choose. Again, here, this is also another good point whereby the Buddha emphasizes on friendship. All right. And of course, the Buddha also talk about true friends. Who are the true friends? The true friends are basically one who are helpful whenever you are in deep trouble. He does not only exist when you are well and happy, but he also exists. In fact, he was there to ensure that you are taken care of when you are down. And he shares both your happiness and sorrow. And of course, he is a good counselor. He counsels you. He brings you from the wayward to the right path. And he sympathizes with you when you have challenges in life. Right? So these are the true friends that you choose. And of course, the third one, he also talk about close relationship. We must be close with basically when the Buddha talk to Segala, the Buddha actually taught about the six directions. He says that we must be close with these six directions. Number one here is the eastern side. Eastern side is basically how we should treat our parents on the eastern side. On the western side, he also thought about how we should also treat our wives and children if we have. And the south is basically how do we treat our teachers. And the north is how do we treat our friends and associates. All right. At the top of us is basically the Brahmin and the ascetic, and the bottom are basically the service, the employees. These are basically the suttas in which the Buddha talk about worldly happiness. He have not talked about peace. He talked about basically worldly happiness. And this is very important because, after all, the big part of our life here is to find happiness. Right? There's nothing wrong with it. Now, he also taught again in the other suttas on Anana Sutta. He talks about four types of worldly happiness. Number one is happiness of possessions. I think we all know that, when we get our first car, we get our first house, how happy we are. All right. So whether we are buying it in cash or loan, that is that happiness that we should learn to appreciate when we buy our first new possessions. Like in my case, my first new possession was my bicycle. When I was much younger, we were in, I came from a very humble family, and I recalled, that I was having an old bicycle from passed down from my late grandfather, and that bicycle was stolen. So my mom decided to, buy me a new bicycle. That time was about $140 or 140 to $150, and it was the first possession that I have, and I felt very, very proud about it. All right. Now the problem with happiness, the worldly happiness here, is that we're always never so-called satisfied. We have one, as I said, we have one bicycle. We probably want to upgrade into a motorcycle, and then eventually upgrade to cars and things like that. So that's the nature of worldly happiness. It is always constantly changing. All right. Now the second happiness is basically once you have the possession, you've got your car, you've got your bicycle, you've got your house. You you enjoy staying in it. If it's a house, you enjoy using it. If it's a car or a bicycle, so that's basically the happiness of enjoying possession. All right. So this is something that we need to appreciate and know that that is something that we do. Now, happiness of being debt free. I mean, unless we are born in a rich family where our parents could afford to buy the first possession by cash, I believe majority of us, the first assets that we buy, whether it is a car or a house, we actually take loan to buy it. Of course, once you enjoy the possession, you enjoy using it. The next happiness here is after you've fully paid your first car loan or your first house loan. That's also another form of happiness that we get, right? You feel that suddenly the following month, when you don't have to pay any more installment, you've got that extra money that you can use for other purposes. So to me, that is basically a form of happiness that we all attain. All right. Again, here, as I said, that these happiness are not permanent. It is temporary. Once you get extra money, you say, "Wow, probably I want to upgrade my car, or I want to upgrade my house." Right. Now, the fourth one is happiness from blameless life. This is something that is very challenging because even the Buddha's time, he as an enlightened beings are not free from blame. So again, here in this particular Dhammapada, the Buddha actually taught about how this Atula, he actually has, he's a lay disciple. He has got about 500 followers. First of all, he went over to Terra Revata. This is a story about Tula. He went there and he wanted to learn some Dhamma from this Terra Revata. But Terra Revata was quite aloof, he does not say much, he was very silent. They're not happy with Terra Revata. Abdullah then went over to Sariputta. We all know that Sariputta is very knowledgeable in the Dhamma, right? He's got lots of wisdom. And of course, when he went to Sariputta to seek Dhamma learning, Sariputta expounded a lot of very detailed Abhidhamma, lessons to Atula. Here, he wasn't very happy too because he said that it's too long-winded, too deep, cannot understand, right? Then lastly, he went over to Ananda, and Ananda gave him just basic, essential Dhamma for him to learn. Also, he was not very happy. And eventually, he went to see the Buddha, and he actually shared with the Buddha his own frustrations. And then the Buddha expounded the knowledge to him to say that, look, nobody is free. You don't speak, you get blamed. You speak too much, you get blamed. You speak too little, also you get blamed. So nobody is free from blame. But having said that, today, when you talk about blameless life, so long as we don't break the 5 precepts, so long as we practice right speech, we can minimize the blameless life. We can minimize being blamed. All right. But again, here, when you lead a life which is peaceful, you will attain that kind of happiness that ordinary people will not be able to attain. Right. Now, the nature of worldly happiness. We've gone through the various sutta that Buddha have taught us, and one thing that I can conclude here is that worldly happiness is always changing. All right, we can never get permanent happiness because human beings, we never stop craving for more. If only we can be contented with what we have, then you find that the world will be a happier place to live. But unfortunately, this is what it is. Worldly happiness has never been something that we are only contented with. In fact, if you look at Mahatma Gandhi, he actually gave a very good quotation. He said that the world has enough to meet the need of everyone, but it will never be enough to meet the greed of everyone. So long as they are greed, whatever you have in this world will never be enough for even one person. All right. So that's basically the nature of worldly happiness. So when you look at this particular statement, nature of worldly happiness, which is not permanent, then how can one achieve happiness? Whatever you have, as far as it's material, is always temporary. You always want more and more and more. And the second part here is that because worldly happiness is very often they're not influenced by external factors. If you look at it, I think it is true. All right. Whatever we're doing today, we want to be happy. You work hard, you want more money. That money is an external thing. You work hard, you want to buy a house, a small house, big house, and a much bigger house. That's again here external factors. And you want to work hard because you want a promotion. A promotion is a title that is given to you, also externally. So that is basically the nature of worldly happiness. It is very much influenced by external factors. And external factors are never so-called permanent, and you will never be always happy. So if that is the case, then you find that even your own happiness are never permanent. All right. So let's look at what is worldly happiness. This is just a simple definition which I found from Uncle Google's. So what is happiness? And I find that this to be quite true. Number one, it is high arousal, positive inner excitement. And when you look at it, it is true. When you're happy, definitely it comes from the heart, right? It comes from the heart. It also comes from the mind. And it is excitement expressed mostly externally because you smile, you laugh, your face is radiant, you have a peace of mind and things like that. All right. Unfortunately, this so-called happiness is never long and stable. I recall, when I was talking to my friend that I wanted to buy something, my dream car and things like that. He says, go ahead and do it. He says, I mean, if you can afford it, it doesn't hurt your family, go and get it. Because he said, get away with it because you will soon realize that, when you get what you want, you will remain very happy, all right, for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, for a month, for 2 months. After that, when you have your first scratch on a car, you find that you're no longer as happy as you were when you first got it. All right, and that's the reality of things. Okay, so same thing, whether it's a car, a house, a promotion, right? Whatever you get is always a temporary happiness. It's never permanent happiness. But having said that, doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive for that. Right? It's just that we must be wise enough to remain equanimous, to be able to balance that happiness. All right. Later on, I will share with you what it means when I say equanimous. Now, the other one here about worldly happiness here is the question that I always say is that is it always a wholesome happiness? I think mostly when we're happy, our heart and minds are excited, and we are happy because of our achievement or something that we like, or maybe our children graduated, or maybe we get married, or our children get married, or we became the first grandfather and things like that. Those are sincere happiness. All right, and those are mostly been expressed within ourselves. But question here, is it always a wholesome happiness? Unfortunately, not always. I think I'm sure some of us has got the biggest enemies. That we are happy when there's a downfall of the enemies. I mean, it may sound negative, but while we try to not allow that to overwhelm us, these are the feelings sometimes that we feel. All right. I just wanted to sort of highlight to you that worldly happiness is not always necessarily wholesome, but the unwholesome one we try to suppress, because we shouldn't be feeling happy for somebody else's misfortune. I think that is not something that Buddhism taught us to be. I mean, we must always have what we call compassion. All right. Okay. Now, what about spiritual happiness? Spiritual happiness is something different. I mean, it's basically uh, an happiness that we achieve not mainly caused by external factor, but is something that is that exude from within our hearts or from within our mind through a practice of a noble efforts. Like if you were to know what the Eightfold Path is, right effort, right thought and right efforts. To the right thoughts and right efforts that we actually can also attain spiritual happiness. Now, what is then inner peace? Okay, which is sometimes we also call spiritual happiness. It is low, not high. It's low arousal, internal positive feeling. So, for example, when you do your Samantha meditation, you may attain a certain level of calmness of the mind. Okay, and you may also attain a serenity of the heart. The heart is free and peaceful. So that's basically internal feeling that you have. And when you are going through your meditation, when you achieve certain level of calmness, you find that even your body is relaxed. Of course, there are many other ways in which you can relax your body. Some people find that by just through sitting down, lying down, listening to soft music, all right, you can also relax your body. You can also attain certain serenity of the hearts. Okay, so that is also again another form of relaxation. But again here, if so long as the music is there, you will remain serene and relaxed. But the moment the music stops, you may not be able to attain that calmness. All right. So that's again relying on external factors. And of course, the feeling of contentment. Right. It is difficult to attain a certain level of contentment, especially when one thinks about building a career, or wanting to get something that is what do you call it, something that you wish for. Here, when you talk about feeling of contentment, you're talking about at that moment of time when you whatever you have, when you feel grateful, when you feel contented, you find that whatever that you have at that moment in time is enough. Okay, is enough, and you're happy with it. But it doesn't mean that you uh, should not have an ambition to acquire more. It's just that people sometimes use Buddhism to say that, Buddhism teaches to let go. Enough lah, no need to work so hard. Be lazy lah. That's not the way it is. The Buddhism doesn't teach you to be to be lazy. In fact, if you look at Digajanu Sutta just now that we went through, the Buddha actually taught us that we must be good in whatever we are doing. So in the same manner, if we are good in whatever we are doing, and at the same time we are able to balance it with contentment, whatever we get at that moment of time, we feel grateful. But at the same time, we continue to strive harder, right? And as we strive harder, of course, the reward will come with it, right? And yeah, this is the one I'm talking about, balanced state of mind. Okay, so this is always a challenge, and we call it equanimous state of mind. All right. Now, this particular state of mind will only surface. We will only be able to know how excited we are, how excited, how depressed, how happy we are when we are challenged. Okay. So, for example, if we are promoted, are we overly excited? Are we able to sort of say, well, I deserve this and appreciate what has been given, but I shouldn't be overly excited about it? Or similarly, if I'm not promoted, well, somebody junior than me got promoted, doesn't mean that I'll be very, very sad. Then again, you must say that, well, that management has got certain reason why I was not promoted. So you're able to have this balanced state of mind, then you find that you will not be badly affected by it. Okay. So similarly, we also know that happiness and sorrow comes in a pair. Someday you are happy, someday you are sad. And if you're able to balance that two state of mind, then you find that the situation will not be as bad. I mean, it's easier said than done, but this is something that we all need to practice. Without practice, this is just a textbook knowledge. Buddhism, it talks about practice. So if we don't practice, you won't be able to see the benefit of the teachings, right? Now, I want to touch on this part about the heart and mind. I think we all always think that the Buddhism talk about the mind, but don't forget, we also have got the other part, the emotional part, the emotional part, the feeling part, okay? So they are divided into the heart and the mind. So the heart to me is the emotion, the feeling. And to me, factor to inner peace are basically, number one is gratitude, okay? And it is very, very important to have gratitude. Later on, I'll share with you what I mean by that. Number two is virtues. Virtues are basically precepts, moral values that you have. It's very, very important for you to have these virtues, the 5 precepts, loving kindness, doing good things, being generous. These are virtues that we need to have in order for us to free our heart. And of course, the third one is to let go. It's always easier said than done to let go. What is there to let go? Let us go through later on. The next one is the mind. Now, the mind is a thinking mind, a mind that it thinks. So these are 3 things that the mind should learn to do. Number 1 here, to avoid quick judgment. Number 2 is daily mindfulness. And number 3 is meditation. To me, these are the 6 key factors to inner peace. Right? Now, let's look at gratitude. Nah, Katanya Sutta Anguttara Nikaya 2.31 talks about gratitude. Okay, when you talk about gratitude, you talk about acceptance, meaning to say that whatever that you have to accept it, at least for the time being. And gratitude is always an expression of our reflections. How often do we reflect that whatever we have today, we should be grateful. All right. So whether we are born rich, born poor, we live in big house, we live in small house, the fact that we are normal, the fact that the condition we are in, so long as we're able to accept it, I think life will not be that difficult. I mean, as I said just now, that I came from a very humble family. That is something that I have to accept it. But having accepted it doesn't mean that I do nothing about it. Okay, I can always improve myself. All right, that's gratitude. Number 2, appreciate it. Dhammapada 182 talks about rare is the birth of a human being. All right. So the fact that we are born as a human being, the fact that we know Dhamma, I think that itself is something that we must learn to appreciate. Not everybody can be grateful. Let me tell you this, that I've known and seen that there are many people who, despite all the good luck that they have, they always seems to be complaining about things, about lives, about their own family, about many things in their life. They always blame others. But these are the people, if they can only show some gratitude, you find that their life will be much better. All right. And of course, the Buddha also talk about, when you talk about gratitude here, you're talking about being contented, learning to be happy with whatever you have here. So Dhammapada 204 talks about one who is contented is, blessings. It's like greatest wealth. Being contented is basically to be able to be, to be blessed, great wealth. Here it says here, contentment is the greatest wealth. So if you are able to be contented, whatever you have, that to me is rich. Okay. So unfortunately, sometimes whatever we have, we want more. I think, as I said just now, there's nothing wrong to be able to want more. It's just that at this point of time, whatever you have, if you can be contented, then you find that life will be much better, and your heart, your heart, your heart and mind will be even peaceful. So when you are able to express gratitude, meaning to say that when you do, well, I do my gratitude reflections every morning when I get up. So in a way, I'm grateful that I'm able to get up. I'm in good health. My family is good health. My children are doing success in their own way, and that the place that I'm staying is peaceful. Everything is going smoothly. So when you have that sense of gratitude, when you do that reflection in the morning, it helps you to open up your heart. Okay, when you have gratitude, you tend to set less expectation. Okay, less expectation. A lot of us suffer because we set too high an expectation, and when we can't attain the expectation, then it becomes a problem. But the other one here is that sometimes we are upset about many things, whether it is with our spouse or with the traffic, or with our bosses, because we have a certain expectation of them. We want them to behave in a certain way, and when they don't behave in a certain way, we get very upset. All right. So, but when we are able to show gratitude and be grateful whatever we have, then we find that it helps us to open our heart. All right. And when we are able to be to show gratitude, we tend to be closer to reality. That's real, basically, right? Whatever that you have now, it is what it is. Of course, you doesn't mean that you have you don't work hard for it. You can still continue to work hard for it. At the same time, you know very well that whatever you have, it is whatever that is close to reality. And when you are able to be closer to reality, you find that you be very happy. All right. At the same time, you can even find peace, especially when you do gratitude reflection in the morning, when you reflect the fact that you have all the things that you have in the world, right? And if you need to compare, don't compare with somebody better than you. You should always compare somebody worse off than you. But I think it's best that you should avoid comparison, because sometimes it creates unnecessary excitement. The best here is accept the fact that whatever you have, you are grateful. And when you are grateful, it will help you to open up your heart, and you are closer to reality. And when your heart is open, you receive more blessings. All right. When your heart is open, you find that whatever you have, it comes to you easily. That you're easily contented, even though whatever you have extra, you are easily contented, and you will continue to strive harder and continue to show gratitude with whatever little extra that you have. So when you can open up your heart, you can actually receive more blessings. Right. Now the next one is virtues. Now virtues to me is very important element. If you want to strive for peace of mind. Whether it's generosity, loving kindness, or wisdom. When you talk about generosity here, you're talking about being generous. It does not mean that you need to have money in order for you to be generous. Generosity comes in many, many forms. If you got money, you feel that you want to help somebody who has got less fortunate, go ahead and do it. But sometimes you may not have the money, but you think that you can donate your time and energy or expertise, by all means do it. Or for that matter, you can still be generous when you see anybody on the street. You look at them and they look very sad, smile at them. So that is also another different form of generosity. So generosity does not always necessarily means that you need to have money. Okay, you can be generous in many forms. All right. Of course, the second one here is kindness. Loving kindness here, basically, you need to love yourself in order to love others. Huh? So, wish others goodness and wellness. And of course, the third one is wisdom. Here, what I'm trying to say is that it's just the opposite of greed, hatred, delusions. All right. The Buddha mentioned that the three poisons here are greed, hatred, delusions. The opposite of it is generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, which is actually, if you look at second noble truth, about cause of suffering. So if you can practice this generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, then basically, it helps you to progress in your spiritual happiness and peace. Of course, the second one here is the practice of 5 precepts. It's the most basic moral, practices that we all can do. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxicants. Of course, when you talk about the 5 precepts, you talk about preservation of life, which is basically you need to have loving kindness in order for you to practice the non-killing. And then, of course, the non-stealing is basically generosity. And the third one, basically, the sexual misconduct, we talk about renunciation. And the fourth one, which is musavada or lying, I think we must always practice the right speech. All right. And of course, the fifth one is basically the intoxicants. Because if you don't practice the fifth, you end up breaking the first four. So that's why it's very important for us to practice the 5 precepts. In fact, you find that one of the important factors for us to progress in our spiritual development here is that we need to have a certain level moral values so that we can actually progress in our spiritual developments. Otherwise, you find that we will always remain stagnant. There's always this so-called stigma that sticks into our subconscious mind that we are guilty of, or we feel remorse because we do something that is breaking the precepts. Okay. And the third one, of course, is to restrain in our words, thoughts, and actions. Here, again, I was just talking about the 8 noble path, which is one of them is the right efforts. So right effort is very important here for us to restrain in words, thoughts, and action, so that you prevent us from saying things, thinking about it, and doing something that is negative. All right. So that is basically virtues. Now, virtue will actually shield our heart. It will shield our heart against greed, hatred, and delusions. So when you have virtues, when you practice virtues very often than not, it actually help you to ensure that your hearts are not full of greed, hatred, delusions. And even if there is, it helps to suppress these 3 poisons. And of course, it will also help us to prevent craving. Now, the next one is let go. Here, lighten the heart. In this Natumhaka Sutta, the Buddha mentioned that we should learn to let go because none of it is our own. Whether people tell you something that you don't like to hear, people make you angry, why do you keep to your heart? Because it doesn't belong to you. It is somebody else who threw it at you. So if you don't receive it, it doesn't affect you, but you received it, you keep it along with you, then it becomes a burden to you. So you learn to forgive. So when you learn to forgive here, it's referring to generally a person. Definitely when you talk about this one normally to me is a person that actually either has said something or do something that hurts you, all right, or hurts your family or your loved one, okay? And it's not easy to forgive. Of course, when you forgive doesn't mean that you should forget, all right? Because you shouldn't forget. You must always, remember, but remember the lesson that you can learn from it. And learn to forgive because it helps you to upload the so-called garbage in your head and in your shoulder. So when you learn to forgive, basically you're just saying, I don't want to carry this along with me, because the more you carry it in your heart, the heavier it gets. And you find that that will actually help, it sort of add weight to your heart, and it doesn't help you at all. Now, the next one is learn to release. When you talk about learning to release here, it basically means to say it's not a person, but it's a thing. It could be basically your possession, your titles. No, I know of colleagues who has got this, we call it power syndromes. She was holding high position in the previous company, and after she resigned, all right, and she go into a different mode, you find that actually she find it difficult to let go of the previous position. She still think that she is the big boss in the previous organization, where else she's no longer in that organization, or she's no longer holding that similar position. I always remember that whatever position you are holding, for example, you are just when you retire, you're just like what you call it, a burnout spotlight. You may have a big spotlight, but you're no longer in the position. So if you can learn to let go, it sort of helps to lighten your hearts. And learn to live in the present. I think our hearts and mind can only do things and carry things one at a time. So if you can learn to live in the present, you find that the heart has got no space to keep the past and to worry about the future. So if you can learn to live in the present, then you find that the heart, is more peaceful and calm. Okay, so this is what I do now. This is like what you call mind your own business. I mean, you live in the present, you forget about the past, because there's nothing much you can do in the past. Whatever that's past is past. There's nothing much you can do. Okay, and if you want to address it, you address it now in the present. Okay, and don't worry about the future because the future hasn't come. But unfortunately, a lot of us actually worry so much about the past and also the future, and we forget to live in the present. Right? So that is not helping the heart. So learning to let go will actually help to lighten the hearts. Okay. Now, when you lighten the hearts, you have a less emotional baggage. All right. So when you have less emotional baggage, you become more peaceful and free, and you can accommodate more merits in that sense. All right. Okay. Now the mind. Next one is the mind. Avoid quick judgment. Now here towards the end, I always believe that when you talk about the acceptance of nature of things, the Buddha taught in Dhammapada 277 that all conditioned things are subject to change. So towards this end, I believe in this world called live with the flow or go with the flow. Okay, so whatever that happens, it's like que sera que sera, whatever will be will be. Okay, so we can accept that the nature of things is that nothing is permanent. All right, and you can accept it. You find it's easier for us to have a more peaceful mind. All right, and you see things as they are. All right, see things as they are. Don't judge, don't do anything, just don't we call it don't add spices to it. So for example, when you say see things as they are, basically means to say if you were to be caught in traffic jam, a lot of us tend to add sauce into the traffic jam. We say that what is policeman doing? Why is the car very slow? Why is the traffic light not working? Why are there so many cars? So when you start adding all these so-called spices, it actually raise the emotional feeling of yourself, and you start making judgment. Then you find that you become very, very upset about it. But when you talk about seeing things as they are, basically means to say that if a traffic jam, what you can do here is to minimize that feeling. What we can do sometimes, what I do sometimes here is to start comparing colors of the cars, and you distract yourself from that feeling, or you start adding the total of the number plates. Then when you get all those distractions, you find that you become less stressful, and you just enjoy. You just accept it as they are. There's nothing much you can change. Nothing much you can do about it. It's just like people's behavior. I've known of so-called toxic friends. It's their nature to, whenever they see you, they say nasty things about things, they say nasty things about you, but that's what they are. Can you do anything about it? You can't. Okay, they are like that. So what you can do? Just accept it. If you can accept it and see things as they are, you find that you become less angry, less disappointed. You just look at as it is. Don't judge. Don't add any spices. All right. And there are always two sides to a coin. In Lokavipatti Sutta, it talks about the 8 worldly conditions: happiness, sorrow, gain, loss, fame, ill fame, praise and blame. There are two sides to a coin. So long as you don't judge, all right, you don't fall yourself into either side of the coin, you just take it as whatever it is. Okay. So then basically when you do such a thing, you're actually restraining the mind from making quick judgment. And when you judge, sometimes you can be wrong because situation change, nothing's permanent. So you think that you are right in making the judgment, you may turn out to be wrong, and then you feel much worse off than when you don't judge. Huh? Now, the second one here is daily mindfulness. I call this MYOB, mind your own business. Okay. So, when you practice daily activity, you just mind your own business. So if you are, say, walking, you just focus on walking. If you are doing washing, focus on washing. If you are driving, focus on driving. Okay. So basically, you don't have to get yourself distracted with other things. So I call this mind your own business, right? And I find that it helps a lot because very often they're not, if you stay on course, whatever you're doing, you don't get distracted, right? And for me, I like to do hiking, and I find that this so-called philosophy, mind your own business, tend to be very, very useful. I just focus on the steps I'm taking. I don't care about what the monkeys are doing or what the other things are doing. I just focus on whatever I'm doing, and I find that helps me to ensure that I got a full grips of where I'm standing. All right. And daily mindfulness also should also help us to align our thoughts and actions. To me, this one is like I take a simile of a car. Our so-called our tire, the four tires must be aligned, just like it must be aligned in order for us to be able to move straight. So our thought and our action must be aligned. So, for example, if you are doing something, say doing a computer work, whatever you're saying and whatever you're thinking, it must be the same. Otherwise, you definitely make mistakes. All right. Whether it is doing something or saying something, if your mind is wandering somewhere else and you are talking, then you find that you're not aligned. When you're not aligned, you may be saying something that is not consistent with what you have in mind. So that's basically daily mindfulness, to retrain your mind, basically. And one thing at a time. Again, here it is another philosophy which I find it very useful, because when you study meditation, you find that our mind can only take one thing at a time. Okay, the mind can only take one thing at a time. Even though we think the mind can be multitasking, but in reality, the mind can only take one thing at a time. So if you keep yourself do things one thing at a time, you can focus better. All right, and that's how, to me, how I practice my daily mindfulness. It's basically to retrain the mind. And of course, the third one is meditations, developing the mind, living kindness, contemplation, and insights. Now, towards this end, not everybody is suitable to meditate. I must say this, not everybody is suitable to meditate. But we all know that the Buddha taught that meditation is very, very important. Whether you start out with loving kindness to love yourself, or whether you learn with calming yourself or you gain more insights, this is a choice that everyone have to take, and you need to make sure that you have the right masters to train you on meditation. Not everybody can take it, but my advice here is that if you've got a good friend, again here talking about friend, in this particular story, Venerable Megia also talk about the importance of spiritual friends here. He wanted to meditate. He after his so-called alms round, he saw a very peaceful, beautiful place, very beautiful sight, and he very much wanted to meditate. And he went to the Buddha and seek permission from the Buddha. And the Buddha told him, two times rejected to him. He said, wait, the time is not right. So on the third request, he said, I really want to go and meditate. So Buddha said, okay, by all means, go. And he went to meditate. He find that while the place is calm, his mind is full of lust. Okay, he has got a lot of challenges and all the maras coming in. And eventually, he couldn't meditate anymore. He went back to the Buddha, and then the Buddha talked to him about, sometime when you're not ready, you need a good spiritual friends as a good role model to motivate you and to guide you. All right. So meditation is the same thing. Sometimes you need a good friends to inspire you, to motivate you, to encourage you to do meditations. And this is not for everybody, but I think it is very important. So you need these three activities in order for you to be able to find peace. One is to restrain the mind, to avoid quick judgment. Second is daily mindfulness, to retrain the mind. And the third one is to develop the mind. Okay. Now, last but not least, the Buddha has taught us many ways to find happiness and peace of mind. These are the suttas that we've gone through. We need to be able to balance between worldly happiness and spiritual happiness. There's nothing wrong to attain worldly happiness, but we need to balance it with spiritual happiness. Okay? When we talk about this, we talk about the heart that's free versus the mind, the peace of mind. So both must be balanced. Okay? Last but not least, whatever that has been taught here, it will not be useful if you only learn. You can remember, but you don't practice, because at the end of the day, it is the experience that matters. You want to know whether the Buddha's teaching is wonderful or not, you practice it. When you practice it, and when you can experience it yourself, then you truly know the essence of the Dhamma. Okay, thank you very much.
Akasatha ca Bhummatha Devanaga Mahiddhika Punyang Tammanumoditva Chiram Rakantu Lokasasanang Ettavata ca Amhehi Sampadang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Sabbe Bhutha Sabbe Satta Anumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. And aspirations? Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for watching. For other videos, please visit the links below. Bye bye for now. See you all again next week.